In a busy hotel kitchen, a banquet manager shocks everyone by turning a faucet on a roll in a dishwasher's hands and dumping the man's tote in public. A young line cook on probation risks his job to buy the dishwasher a plate and walk him out, facing suspension and quiet fallout. Small, steady changes ripple through the staff, shifting habits and rules as the cook finds a wordless, earned sense of relief under the loading dock lights. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And, hey, where are you tuning in from? Leave your country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach. The banquet manager slammed a tray of plated chicken into the sink. He twisted the faucet full blast over a foil-wrapped roll in the dishwasher's hands, and water hammered it flat. "Staff meal is at 10, the manager said. He flicked the wet roll into the drain and stared at the older man like he was a stray dog. The dish machine hummed loud and hot. The dishwasher, small and bony, kept his eyes down. His polo was already dotted with bleach spots. He held his plastic tote against his belly like a shield. "You don't touch the banquet food," the manager said. "You wait until I say." The tote hit the rubber mat and spilled. A blue inhaler clacked across the floor. A zip bag with a sandwich slid out half mashed. Loose napkins, a bus schedule, and a paper wristband fell in a wet fan. Rowan looked up from the flat top. His hands were on a line of chicken breasts under the salamander. He smelled hot butter and bleach and that sharp metal smell of the dish pit. He was 3 weeks into probation. A bad yelp on a cold steak had put him on his last write-up. The manager who just flooded the roll was the one who signed schedules. Rowan had rent due. He had $68 until Friday, and bus passes stacked in his wallet like thin paper bones. This was not his fight. He knew that. The older man bent to gather the things. He moved slow, like he was underwater. The manager stepped on the edge of the bus schedule, pinning it with a polished shoe. "Leave it," he said. Rowan's station ticket printer chattered. He could ignore this. He could not. His chest buzzed like the flylight over the expo line. He killed the burners and stepped off the line. "Chef, I need 2 minutes," he called. But the sous didn't hear him over the vent hood and the hiss of the dishwasher lid. He walked to the pass, to the dish pit, to the wet floor where the older man knelt with his fingers on the bus schedule. Rowan crouched and put the things back into the tote. He handed the inhaler to the man. "Here," he said. The manager's eyes cut to Rowan. "Get back on the line." Rowan stood, water soaking the cuff of his pants. "I'm taking him to eat," he said. The manager laughed once, harsh. "He can eat at 10. You can work now." Rowan reached for the service window by the employee cafeteria. He told the cashier. "Quiet and fast. Give him a plate. Put it on my tab." "We don't have tabs," she said, eyes on the manager, eyebrows up. Rowan pulled his card from the inside pocket of his apron. "Then run this," he said. "Now." The cashier glanced at the manager. The manager shook his head. "No." He broke the rule. "It's a plate of food," Rowan said. He could hear his own voice flatten. All at once he felt 12 again, steadying himself in front of a teacher. "Not how it works," the manager said. "We do things in order here." Rowan put the card on the counter and slid it toward the cashier. He pushed it with 2 fingers until it made a small click against her till. The cashier swallowed and ran it. The receipt printed like a narrow white tongue. She slapped a plate on the counter and loaded it with a scoop of rice, some green beans, a chicken thigh under a ladle of gravy. The manager stepped closer to Rowan. Rowan could smell his cologne under the hot kitchen air. "You want to buy him food? Buy it on your own time." "I'm doing that," Rowan said. He pushed the plate toward the dishwasher. "Come on." The older man didn't move. He looked at the manager like a dog waiting for a nod. His hands shook a little. "Come on," Rowan repeated. "Softer." He touched the man's elbow. The manager's voice dropped. "You take 1 step out that door and leave your station. You can keep walking." Rowan heard the hiss of the salamander behind him and the click of someone laying down a pan. He saw the Suze at the end of the line, eyes on him, mouth a thin line. She didn't say a word. His heart did a scared rabbit thing. He thought of his rent. He thought of the night he risked a mop bucket to sneak a plank of salmon to the wrong table. Dumb and knew why. Dumb and knew. He thought of the reach of a hand and the weight of a roll, gone soggy. Rowan picked up the plate. "Will be 5 minutes," he said. "Clock out," the manager said. Rowan looked at the time clock by the swinging door. A green light glowed over it. He set the plate in the older man's hands and walked to the clock. He punched the button. The machine beeped. He pulled off his apron and hung it on a hook. The knot of the neck strap left a mark on his skin. The room went quieter in his head as soon as he stepped past the line. It was just the dish machine hum and the wet slap of someone rinsing ladles. He nodded toward the back hall. The older man shuffled with him, the plastic tote tucked to one side, the plate balanced in both hands. They sat on the loading dock by the recycling bins. The door was propped with a dented metal pan. Cold air touched their wet clothes. Night smelled like fryer oil and rain. Rowan handed over a napkin and a plastic fork wrapped in paper. The older man unwrapped it like it might break. "Eat," Rowan said. The older man took a small bite of chicken and chewed careful. His eyes watered, not tears exactly, just the kind that come from heat and steam and being looked at. Rowan shrugged off his hoodie and set it next to the man. "If you want it dry," he said. The man nodded and dabbed his chest with the napkin where the faucet had sprayed him. He ate. He didn't talk. Inside, someone banged a pan. Laughter burst, then stopped. A pushcart rattled past the open door and turned toward the banquet room. Rowan grew aware of his bare arms and the chill and his stupid goosebumps. He forced himself not to fidget. He watched the alley, the back of the hotel, the glowing letters of a bank across the street. He let the older man eat until the plate was clean. When the man wiped the last gravy smear with a piece of green bean skin, he looked at Rowan like he was checking for rules. "You got more breaks?" Rowan asked. The man shook his head. He tapped his own chest once, a quiet gesture. "Thank you," he said. His voice cracked around the second word. Rowan nodded. He picked up the tote. He squatted and picked up the things that had fallen from it earlier. On top was a folded school lunch form with unpaid balance circled in red. Under that, a pink sticker sheet with gold stars that said Bravery Award in a child's font, a paper wristband with a child's name and a date creased and going soft. He slid them back in. He didn't say anything about any of it. He didn't look long. The older man tucked the inhaler into his pocket like it was a wallet. He stood. He was smaller than Rowan had thought inside the heat of the kitchen. Out here, he seemed like he was wearing clothes a size too big. Rowan walked him back in. They went through the service hall, past the ice machine that always leaked and the corkboard with birthday notices. The fluorescent lights hummed and blinked once, like a tired eye. At the time clock, the manager leaned against the wall with his clipboard. He didn't try to look nicer about it. "You can go home," the manager said. "We'll talk tomorrow." Rowan nodded. He didn't say sorry. He didn't say anything at all. He just held out his hand for the older man's tote, gave it back, and watched the man slip into the wash of steam and dishes. Rowan walked out through the lobby to the street. His shirt carried the kitchen on it. People in suits flowed past him, scented and dry. He felt like a damp rag held at the edge of a party. He rode the bus home with his hoodie on his lap. He turned his card over. The receipt in his pocket said $11.27. He didn't sleep deep. He kept hearing sink water and the slap of the faucet. The next morning, he sat in HR under a fern. The manager and the Sues came in and sat across from him. The HR rep held a pen she didn't use. "We have policies," the manager said. "You left your station." "That's a safety issue." Rowan stared at the manager's tie. It had tiny sailboats on it. They looked like they were moving. "You can come back after a week," the HR rep said. "We are suspending you without pay. When you return, you'll complete retraining on food handling and chain of command." Rowan nodded. He didn't argue. He signed the form. His hand shook once as the pen caught on the cheap paper. He handed over his badge. It clicked against a desk. Outside, it smelled like warm concrete. He walked to the bus stop and sat on the narrow metal bench. He had time now. He had no work that day and no money coming. At 4, his phone buzzed. A text from a pastry cook with a photo, a foil-wrapped roll on a dish rack, a note next to it in fat marker that said "Save one for dish." He tried not to smile. He failed. He put the phone away. The next week, the corkboard by the ice machine had a new laminated sign, "Staff meal 4/4/30 and 9/30/10. All departments. No exceptions. The manager didn't post it. The Sues did. Someone had taped a tiny cartoon fork in the corner like a joke. By the dish pit, a clear plastic bin appeared with a black marker label, "Plain Rolls." It sat high on a shelf, away from the spray. The cashier started keeping a cup with dollar bills under the counter. She didn't say what for. People knew. Rowan came back on a Thursday. He put on his apron and felt the pull at the back of his neck like a familiar hand. He ran the flat top and called hands for salads. He didn't look for the manager. He didn't have to. The manager kept his distance, his eyes sliding past, as if looking at a timer behind Rowan's head. At 9:30, he watched from the line as the older man walked to the cafeteria. He walked with his shoulders still tight, but he walked like there was a place with a plate waiting for him. He sat with two housekeepers. They ate without looking over their shoulders. By Monday, the busboys had started putting a plastic cup of water by the dish pit. Cold, fresh, a wedge of lime if someone felt fancy. The cart that rattled through the hall stopped doing that. Someone had fixed the wheel. At orientation, which Rowan had to sit through like a new hire, the HR rep added one slide. It showed the staff cafeteria hours and a bullet that said, "Meal is part of your shift. Ask your lead when to go." No one laughed. People nodded and wrote the times down. The manager didn't change his cologne or his tie pattern. He didn't apologize, but he glanced at the dish pit when he passed, just once, like he was checking a burner. Rowan watched the older man work. He still moved slow, but he had a rhythm. He set plates to dry nose up. He tapped the button for the machine with his knuckle like it was a friend. One night a housekeeper came in with two kids in school sweatshirts. They waited by the time clock, quiet and tired. The Sues told them to sit at the corner table in the cafeteria. She set a plate in front of them herself. Rowan noticed small things: a roll on a dish rack tucked behind a pan, a spoon set handle out on a shelf where the dishwashers could reach without dripping. One of the buses started bringing an extra apple. He didn't talk to the manager much after that. He didn't need to. He had made his line and paid for it. In his pocket, the retraining card bent and went soft at the edges. He would have to do the second half next week. He finished a shift and stood at the back door. It was raining, the light thin and yellow over the alley. He could see the edge of the recycling bins where they had sat. He thought about the first flood of water over the roll and how small a thing it was and how heavy it had turned out to be. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired and a little lighter in the chest, like someone had opened a window an inch. He stepped out and pulled his hood up. The alley smelled like wet bread. Across the street, the bank sign blinked and then went steady. Rowan watched the steam from the kitchen drift out and up. It thinned in the rain and disappeared into the soft glow above the loading dock.